Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to Shadowverse. So let's hop into Eris's story. I've been away for a while, so stupidly I pre-scheduled everything and left everything ready to go to save time, and then I fell asleep, and so of course I wake up hours later and it just logs me back out. The Code Geass quest, while we're waiting for this to load, kind of have a problem inherently with them, that if I'm going to get all the points from them, I'm probably just going to have to grind out playing the easiest quest over and over again, because there's almost no chance of me being able to defeat Charles the Elite character, because he's just too strong. His scripted actions make it almost impossible to win, and I just don't have the cards. So they did do you a kindness to let you potentially just grind if you're a newer player, but that does mean more grinding, of which there's really a ton of grinding in this game if you choose to do it. Still getting the daily quests to win three ranked or unranked matches to get temporary gems, and I'm not accomplishing that at all. I've done it like once in a week, and it seems like that daily quest does not change. I've also failed to really line up the other three quests that are stackable, which are main story quests, but I would like to get them all done within the course of a reasonable 30 minutes to an hour, not get one quest, get it done, and then 7 hours later get another quest and get it done, and 7 hours later get another quest.
Have I arrived? I do not see the others.
You know, it kind of feels like all of the characters literally were just written to have the exact same experience and say the exact same sentences, and then they just did a quick editor pass to make it sound like it's coming from each of the individual leaders' voice, because every single character goes like, "Where is this? Where am I? Have I arrived?" Which is probably not the best way to write a story.
He does seem kind.
Yeah, Eris is going to be with Escamoli, and we fairly already know Marlon. He seems to be somewhat powerful.
He could be evil. I am Eris Anthul.
Seems like Eris is going to have a lot of internal dialogue, like Orisa had in the first chapter.
You seem to gaze upon this land as if it were peculiar. Where did you come from?
That would be...
It's surely uncouth to comment on a woman's appearance, but your clothing is most unconventional. It's not just this land, I know. I'm also somewhat knowledgeable about the
Why is he powering up?
I therefore appreciate an honest answer.
He's potentially attacking her, which is interesting because I wasn't expecting that.
Never have I felt anything quite this strong. Is it thirst for blood? No, it's the weight of magic. No, I must not. If anyone is to blame, it is I. I shouldn't appear nervous. Causing him to be alarmed would simply give rise to needless conflict. Nothing will be accomplished here unless I give him a chance.
I would argue the fact that...
I come from a place far from this land. It's not likely nowhere you're familiar with.
What do you mean to say?
I don't know whether you can
like, if you're gonna have a character that just has internal dialogue,
I see.
then just don't have that character in the scene at all. If they're not gonna say anything or interact with people, then that's not...
Well, yes. I was aware that my story must sound ridiculous.
As a matter of fact, I saw you. I saw you suddenly appear. Teleportation does exist in this world, but the way that you appeared was somewhat different. It's almost as if you walked through a gate. So, I had a feeling that you were different from me. At any rate, I know someone like you.
So...
You mean that you doubted me from the beginning?
He might be a keeper.
Very generous of me.
Although I've had speculation here that
No.
you could write this story where each of the guild leaders is a keeper,
That is no great
or they're
surprise.
all under the
People
control
often
of
tell me I have a
Nerva,
face that can't be trusted.
or maybe
If you trust me,
Nerva is
then I
not
think
actually
I should
acting
trust
at all.
you as
That
well.
would be the most ironic
Logical
way to put the
enough.
story here, is that
Of course.
Nerva is not
One
actually
cannot
doing
trust too
anything,
blindly.
and it's
That's
just the
just
natural
fine.
downfall
I feel
of
just the
this
same way. But, well,
completely
I hope that we can cooperate
unattainable
together.
guild system.
Yes, I too hope that is the case.
I'm not sure if we should just stand here talking, so would you mind coming to my guild?
He is on guard.
Like, having
yet still
5
acts
leaders
pleasantly. No matter whether he is good or bad, I cannot
doesn't
let my own guard down around him.
doesn't really accurately
I will take you up
represent
on that offer.
enough of the
Excellent.
populace
In that case, please
and
come this
an
way.
inherently enough of a desire
Ah,
to not
yes,
use the
I forgot
populace in
something.
warfare. Like the townsfolk
There's normally a
in this
greeting
world.
we recite to travelers, and since you've come from, well, the
So we're seeing a story here where each of the guilds are gonna go to war, and they seem to don't care.
welcome to
They
the land
they
of
seem like they don't care
Asunia,
about the townsfolk at
home of
all.
shimmering dew
All.
and guilds.
It's
May
kind of
this
like the
darkness
equivalent
age
of
shine upon
the
you
UN, where
and
there's
be
like
your
3 major members on the Security Council, and generally on all the councils of the United States, Russia, and China, and nothing really happens in any of those councils unless it pleases those 3 members, whereas there's potentially, I think, over 100 other representatives of other countries in the UN that are just like second tier characters that don't get much representation at all. And if you put that in the equivalent of like the House of Representatives in the United States, there's
Welcome to the
a
temple
lot of
of
House of
Discombobulated.
Representatives, but
This
and a lot of
is
representatives in the
incredible.
House of Representatives.
It's in such good
um,
order.
But even there, you have
But
the
you
Speaker of
really
the
think
House
so?
having
That brings
a
me such joy.
huge amount of power
Something about it
over
seems so cold and mechanical.
everyone else, and
It's
then
as
the
if there's no
majority
seal at
whip,
all here.
as it's called,
Would you mind if I were to
being
ask what sort of god you
having a
what sort of god Escamali believes in?
Oh, not at all. We don't particularly believe in any gods.
Then why are you dressed in that way?
that's a good question.
Why are you, Eris? Do you believe in gods?
There was once something I believed to be a god, but that is no longer the case.
I see. You seem similar to us then. I've heard that we originally believed in gods long, long ago.
So yeah,
What
it's weird.
Escamali now believes in is balance. Balance for this land and balance for the guilds.
So they believe in a concept,
As in groups of people who share a common purpose.
basically.
Yes, it's just as you say. There are
In the
a
background,
total
I
of
guess
5
represents
guilds here in
that with
Asunia.
a
There's the Order
scale.
of Blade Rights, Guild of Justice, the Magus Covenant, Guild of Resplendence, the Forbidden Guild, Nicola Adele. Countess Solari, the Guild of Stealth, and finally, Escamali, the Guild of Regulation. Asunia is ruled by a council of these 5 guilds.
There's also a problem specifically with the
Well,
5
that is
guilds.
the official explanation.
In-
There is in fact much more going on.
In
It's
actuality, though,
exaggeration to
Escamali,
have a council.
Oh?
like they
Countess
might
Solari, for
be
example,
the
is a
politicians,
guild of assassins, so they don't show themselves.
but the assassins really aren't doing anything for the general people.
With what happens in this land.
the Mages Guild clearly aren't doing anything for the people. It would make more sense if Escamaldi, like, once a week told that the mages made them go and cast magic to make the crops grow, or, you know, clean up destruction after a, like, tornado or flood or something like that. The Blade Rights act fairly well as a police force, but Nicola Adele does not act as any kind of force that's useful to the general people.
Your role must be a challenging one.
Where, in reality, if you were going to have guilds like this, you would have a baker's guild, where that would be all the people that bake the bread and the food. You would have a bricklayer's guild, which would be all the people building the houses. Or you would have the smith's guild, where that would be everybody building everything out of metal. Which you'd have a weaver's guild of people making fabric. Like, you see these people have metal and masonry and cloth. So yeah, there's even there's really like no logic there at all. And as soon as you had a like mages guild, that would act as a motivating factor for the bakers to form their own guild.
Yes, it must certainly come as a surprise. If I were to believe in God, I might shout at the sky that this is blasphemy.
This guy's voice can get a little annoying in the long run, and I'm not paying attention, obviously. And his talk of gods are kind of extreme for someone who doesn't believe in them. Like, it kind of feels like a almost straw man of what religious people think atheists do all day. And unless you're an atheist YouTuber, which there aren't too many of those that even bother to do this anymore, you don't walk around all day, every day going, there are no gods, there are no gods. You walk around living your life not thinking about it.
I must somehow thank you for what you've done.
Like, it's only religious people that discuss religion endlessly, and in all fairness, the vast majority of religious people don't discuss religion at all, or much at all, more than maybe once a week on Sunday or Saturday.
Do not worry, I have this under control.
Let's see. Unless, of course, the atheist just wants to be a total jerk. Like, if that's the case, then they will walk around and talk about there being no gods over and over again.
Incredible! My body feels extremely light.
So she heals him, but she doesn't heal any of her friends. It's ridiculous.
You convert magical power to light and then use it to attack and heal. Is this magic common in your world?
I'm not sure. There were some others who could use it, but...
Remember, she lost her memory, so...
At times it rends foes, and at times it heals them. Even
so, we still don't... We could really get a good story here if someone...
It should be as you say.
Like, her goal should be something along the lines of working either with Escamaldi or the Mages Guild to retrieve her memories. That should be her goal at the moment.
No, not in particular. You're free to go.
And then that leaves a nice path in which she would retrieve her memories, and then
yes, I simply wanted to be sure.
Then she could like leak out information about her summoning the Keeper.
Would you?
Marlone? Yes?
The reason you might seem untrustworthy has nothing to do with your appearance. Your actions are to blame.
That may well be the case.
So she caught him in a lie.
He seems to have his faults, but his actions are understandable. He was attempting to judge the power of someone who came from another world. One could call it a proper decision. And when he rescued me, his eyes seemed very sincere.
Normally, my job involves feeling out people's minds, so I tend to be suspicious. I'm sorry, really.
It's fine.
Yeah, I could see them restoring her memory, and then her talking about how she summoned Nexus, and then people attacking her for that.
You have companions?
Yes.
Then it's probably for the best if you search for them. Shall I show you to town?
And you have an opportunity here where she could have been given like an Eskimo outfit, and it would give you an opportunity to change up the appearance and have a new skin.
Are the others well? Have they met with this world's
I don't really see a reason
for their safety they haven't.
why they should just consistently push all the characters to look like this, other than a lack of budget or laziness on the animation part. I much prefer the Cardcaptor Sakura style of costumes, where in the kids cartoon, like every single episode, the main heroine has a different outfit compared to like the Sailor Moon style, where the outfits seemingly stay the same for the majority of a season or so, and then at certain points they might get slight modifications. A lot of that, I guess, came around to whether or not you wanted to sell toys, but frankly at this point the idea of they're selling figures or toys of these characters is a ridiculous thought. You might sell some limited edition, like $80 figures for the very expensive collectors, but you're not gonna sell like $6 or $7 figures from Shadowverse to kids.
The canals also serve as a means of transportation. Boats can zip anywhere in an instant.
Get this crown off her head. Keep the staff, because you really can't change it that much. Use the sleeves. Have like a white aesthetic.
There are canals all over.
Rowan would be a great example of someone who would look a lot better if he lost the armor, and instead said he doesn't need it anymore.
Rowan, is that you?
Like, lose the spear, he doesn't need it.
I mean, Eris. It's good to see you're
lose
all
the
right.
armor. Just put him in
And it comes as a relief
a lighter leather style armor.
Pieces of his armor have been chipped away. What happened? No, you're injured, aren't you?
This? It's nothing.
We definitely have a danger here where her story is just gonna revolve around her bumping into people and healing them.
Battling with a rather tall man?
As a matter of fact, they are.
Might I ask your name?
There's a point to make here that in RPGs, when you have team-based battles, you do typically have 3 to 5 characters in that team, in the party, wandering around at the same time, fighting together. That certainly would make sense here, where you could have 4 of the heroes form a party and stay together throughout the majority of a story.
No, if anything, I should be the one saying sorry. If I hadn't gone for my
It almost
spear,
feels
it
like
wouldn't have struck me.
this main story could have been written for an RPG originally, and they said, well, we can't make an RPG, or maybe they even did have like an RPG Maker game in development or released, and then they said, yeah, forget that, let's put it in a card game. That would actually make a lot of sense, frankly, as if this was being made in something like RPG Maker, and then they made the card game later on.
What are you planning to do from here on?
But we kind of clearly can guess that this is actually a Unity game, so
I might be able to find the others.
I don't think you can
Anyway,
easily take something made from RPG Maker and then put it into Unity. Although I could be wrong about that. The thing is, most people that use RPG Maker don't know how to make games at all or program at all, so they tend to be very samey and very bad looking.
Very well. But Rowan, perhaps it is arrogant of me, but I hope that the others and they and I.
Yeah? Well, then I'll gather them and bring them back here to you.
I think you probably need to do something to build up Eris's character a little bit. Like, have her injured and have all the people come to her rescue in the act of potentially, like, trying to save her. Say she was, like, poisoned or something and was slowly dying. Then you don't have to have her in the story so much, and then people could come to her rescue, and then in the act of rescuing her, the other leaders could come to trust her more. There really isn't a reason to have a character in this main group that is untrustworthy in the way of we don't know what their memories are, we don't know what they might do, we don't know why they did the bad things they did before. At least with Urias, the vampire, we know what he's gonna do. We know that he's a vampire, we know that he likes to fight, we know he wants to fight. So he is trustworthy to do the things that you know he will do. She, on the other hand, has... Yeah. I wonder if this is just some, like, translation from Japanese, but that... But that doesn't feel like that would be translated from a phrase in Japanese. That's normal. Japanese tend to follow Shintoism and Buddhism for festivals and holidays. I don't think they honestly take any of it seriously or that seriously, but they do honor their fallen family members, and so they definitely take that seriously. But yeah, I don't think that they would say there are no gods, because they literally in Shintoism believe that almost every object, if it stays around long enough and gets used long enough, will develop as a spirit, and those spirits at some point will evolve into something like a god. So there's like river gods, like you only have to look at like Spirited Away, that there was a river god of a dried up river.
There's something I want to ask you.
That was like a water dragon.
It is a great relief to see that you are well. And what might you want to ask?
And there's like
I felt your intentions were true back then.
an old wives' tale in Japanese of if you use an umbrella for like 100 years and keep it around, it'll gain sentience as a spirit.
I don't have a clear answer yet. Why'd you help make that keeper retreat? Do you reject the keepers?
The liberation I seek cannot be brought about by the hands of the keepers.
See, the voice just changed.
There are
Why?
many keepers. There's Nexus of Serenity, Nerva of Purgation.
Is he gonna name any others?
When another keeper appears, one that has the power you're looking for. And that question is not a fair one. And I know what I need to do.
You and I...
No need to worry. I won't take your life. I'm only going to shackle you.
Yuan's kind of a bad translation.
At least in this world. Don't look so distraught. It's only natural to resist.
So he still kind of acts as the bad guy, even though he's kind of been shown... he's already been shown that he's not the bad guy. At least Unless if he is the bad guy, he's a very smart bad guy who's going to manipulate people for a very long time. She might as well give up her power willingly on a path of redemption. Or you could have had this fight at the beginning of this chapter, and that way he could have hurt her and nobody would have even known that he had hurt her, or like knocked her into a coma, and then all the other people would try to help her and bring back her memories. And at the very least you have a different story from yet another character just bumping into a guild master and walking around the same city. This is the 7th time we've seen it, and by the vast majority of people, it will be the 7th time they've seen it.
Eris, why are you seeking liberation?
I seek liberation because of pain and sadness. All that there is causes the people to suffer.
And you think you'll get rid of that?
I do not know. A part of me is uncertain. In what way should I make my path forward?
Well, she's going to be very unhappy when the war starts.
Why was the village stolen from us? The people worked themselves to the bone, and they did no wrong.
So now she's getting a flashback.
They prayed to God, and when the harvest was plenty, they thanked God. So why would God? I simply know that I wish to liberate the people from sorrow.
All right.
Why do you ask?
You're lost and confused. You can't take a single step forward. There's no need to restrain you now.
Because she has, like, no memory, she also doesn't spout any dogma, per se, other than to say the Horde God. She has, like, no teachings, no Bibles, no traditions. We could really use an explanation of what this symbol means, what this crown means, what these little angels on the side mean, what the symbol on her neck, the crosses and patterns mean.
Kill the poor. Oh God. Oh God. In this world there is no... They couldn't be saved. Not one of them. Not by my God, and not by me. I took the steps to do so. But before me was failure. The ending called Nexus.
Am I now only trying to find someone onto whom I can cling?
Again, that line of dialogue sounds weird.
As I held on to Nexus.
Like, half of these voice lines sound like what I feel like I sound like half the time, where I've either got a dry throat or just woke up. And I don't think I sound that good. I definitely wouldn't take a job as a voice actor doing lines. If I was gonna do a voice acting work, I would have to hope that the voice director, the person in charge of hiring all the voice actors, would recognize that the way I sound and match me with a character that was supposed to sound like they sounded awful.
Why?
And I don't know why you'd ever write a character like that.
There is no God on which to rely. Who is to blame for everyone being dead and stolen away?
This almost comes off as just like a propaganda section from the creators of the game.
I lost faith in the world.
And this is a Korean game, so my understanding of Korean religious beliefs are that they pretty much have none, except for there is one rather large cult that most other Koreans hate, and I'm talking South Koreans here. North Koreans basically worship their leader, and that's it.
I have already sinned enough.
There is
Are there any living creatures
a
without sin?
kind of attempt in almost every Asian country and every country everywhere for the Catholic Church to establish missions and missionaries and spread Catholicism. And that would be about the only experience probably in South Korea or Japan with any Christians, but they don't have any major level of success.
Then this world is a festering purgatory. Do you not think so, Marlone?
Do I not think so?
I mean that
And then Cetus comes back into the picture.
Cetus and Maisha,
Which,
is something wrong?
if you're gonna have a character that's a
At the
giant
break of dawn today, a great
animal
number of
creature,
magical life forms were produced, and they proceeded to go wild. I've
like,
therefore
I
produced a
don't
report.
know,
I'd kindly request that you take a look and act accordingly.
I don't know why you would have this character added
How
in
many
this
times have I
world.
said this very thing to you?
50, 100. Please allow me to take a look at the report.
And we're
Such
apparently gonna
intimidating
have a
eyes.
fight with Cetus.
This may be the 50th or 100th time, but it doesn't seem that you have the Magus Covenant seal.
They're gonna give Cetus.
Tired of hearing that, Marlone Median.
Oh, I'm sure you must be.
So we have a special animation
Stand
here.
down.
Which they definitely could have done that, frankly. Like,
If you were to hurt me, what would that solve?
drop all of the
Deliberations
animation.
based on a report signed by the guild. Isn't it Escamali that set down those rules?
It is, but surely you don't.
Yeah,
think
if you
that by
dropped all
cutting
this
down the leader
animation
of
and you just had
Escamali-
one still
The person
image
who made
of
them
the
is going to
characters,
take responsibility for them.
have like 5 or 6 lines of dialogue saying, I challenge
What
you,
point is
we're
there
gonna
in
fight,
rules that don't fix wrongdoing?
and
They're
then
another
you just
form of
jump into a
injustice.
fight
I
against
can't
this
ignore
character.
his actions anymore.
I don't understand.
Since
But
Cetus
for
is a
two people
fairly
to attack one is
blatant
If you
Um,
don't get it, then back off.
motivation, like,
no.
he's not gonna have a lot of backstory. Even though he probably should, to explain why he is an animal creature.
I understand that much, but I cannot ignore the violence taking place before my very eyes.
What you say is right, but I can't allow this.
That is fine. We will settle this through battle.
Yeah, once again, just bending over backwards to have a fight. For no reason. It might as well just be a tournament arc. It might as well just be.
Cetus,
Um,
I'm fine.
or, you know,
This
you
man
have
Cetus is always
all of
protecting
these...
the woman. Does not seem to be bad.
Or you could
you
have
not
it
done
where
enough?
they all appeared in the middle of the war and they were just fighting from the word go. Then you could throw in flashbacks when you actually have story to tell and eliminate
it's the
points
fault of
when...
the Blade Rights that we weren't able to obtain the Covenant seal. Let's make another attempt.
Sorry. I guess I really blew up back there.
It's perfectly fine. I'm sure you were getting mad for the two of us. Let's return to the guild. Arisa is waiting. I'm going to bid
It would
you
be
farewell.
fairly easy also to kind of swap bodies
All
and
right
just swap the
then,
heads.
We're already working
here.
to dispatch with the rest.
Thank you very much, and goodbye.
If you just wanted to change the outfits of the characters.
You're a great help,
Like,
Eris.
since
To think that
all
you
these
would
are
be
just
able to
animated with
repel
these colors,
Cetus, never mind
so that you
Maisha.
have an easy way to
No,
copy and paste
I merely did what I felt should be done.
elements.
Eris, is it not human nature?
Are we resuming our conversation from earlier?
Sin is sin, and that's all. What problem is there with that? You need only to pay penance, to atone. Do what you need to.
There's a
There are
problem
surely some sins that cannot
with
be reversed.
using the phrase sin
You're saying your sins are
as
like that?
I understand it. Other people certainly don't have very nebulous definitions of the word sin, but
I
you
know.
can't really have sin
There was a
exist at
town,
all
And in that town was the sacred
if
hall.
there is no God,
It was
because
there that I worked, and it was
sin
there that I served
effectively
God.
is something
The
that
people of
displeases a
Earth were
god.
kind, diligent,
Like
and they died.
eating
The neighboring
eating
village was
pork
struck with
in many
famine.
religions
They
and
wanted food,
around the world is
so they
considered a
attacked the village
sin,
I
not
was in.
because it's
I was away that day.
it's inherently a
returned,
bad thing
all
that
had been
hurts
destroyed.
humans or society or the
Cursed
world in
world.
any way, but because it's doing something that
The
you
villagers were without
told
sin.
specifically
The
not
poor
to
were
do,
without sin.
and something
Why
that
then did they
displeases that
die?
god.
I lamented and I heard a voice.
Which inherently makes the phrase sin
And then
pointless when there is no religion around it.
I began to pray
Because
with
some
others who
sins in
shared
one
my
religion are
thoughts.
not sins in
Forsaking
another
food
religion.
and sleep,
And it's
we prayed
much
and
better to
prayed.
say
We paid no attention to
good
those
or
brothers and sisters
bad,
who
which
fell
are
in service.
more subjective
And in the end,
opinions and opinions that you
summoned
can
the
at
one who
least
brought an end
back
to
up
my world.
with
How
your
could I
own
repent for such a
subjective
sin?
logical
You think
reasoning.
I could atone? The world is frozen over on my account.
Simply give life to as many as you have killed. Save as many as you have destroyed. If the world is frozen, then warm it. That's all you need
Once
to
again,
do.
I'm not paying any
That's
attention
all,
to
Eris.
this.
That's preposterous.
Yes, but that's fine, Eris. All returns to nothingness in the end. There are no sins nor retribution.
Well, then why are you using that
Continue with
word?
everything you have until your final day. That's all you need to do.
Oh, I guess maybe you meant
That could be so.
when the entire world ends, there will be
Well,
no sins and
let
no
us meet
retribution
again.
at the end
I
of
hope that you no longer
of time.
need to waver at that time.
As do I.
Goodbye then.
Give life to as many as you have killed. Save as many as you have destroyed.
That is an interesting argument for balance and trying to atone, certainly, but since you're talking about people's lives, it's very impossible to value one person's life as being the same as another person's life. Once someone's dead, they're dead, at least for the most part, and even in this world with necromancy. I don't think Isabel would be happier that Kyle was dead if the dragon that killed Kyle managed to then save the life of someone else. Yeah, that might be part of the problem here, is that
I
this
must
is
go.
like,
Not all of Marlone's words feel correct.
I think this is a Korean game, although
Simply give life to as many
It's-
as you have killed.
seems
Save
like they
as
kind
many
of
as you have
targeted
destroyed.
Japan
But
first
there
as
may
their
be a
first
form of
market,
truth within them.
which often happens, is that you'll
Save
have
them.
Korean
give them
games that
life.
can
It is
gain
surely
some
nothing
traction
that I
in
alone
South
can-
Korea, but there's just not
I
enough
must
people
search once more if
and
this
not
is my
enough
wish.
of a market share there, so they
This
quickly
town is positively
focus towards
bustling. It
the
has been long
Japanese
since
market,
I
where
heard
there's a
such
lot more
sounds.
people and a lot more
If the people here are able to
just
smile,
marketplace.
then surely the others will be free
Then they
of
eventually
sorrow.
make it to the West in general, which is like
What was that?
United States, English-speaking world,
Erica.
Europe,
It must be you.
North America.
Erica! Priestess. Or should I say heiress? Erica, you're unhurt. Yes. Now please excuse me. Wait, Erica.
It would be
I understand that I cannot be trusted. but
fairly
will you not allow me to stay
appropriate
with you?
for
I have not
heirs
been able to provide anyone
to
with answers, but even still,
kind of
I would like to
have a
come together
crisis of
with
faith
everyone.
and lose a lot
No,
of
thank you.
her
Not now.
dogmatic
Why?
dress.
There's no need for
One
me to
way or
answer.
the other, she would probably
Erica,
won't think she's
I don't
unworthy
care
of
about
it.
What you want or need.
Uh,
Ugh. I have my
lose
own
the
path to
crown
walk.
at the very
Why do you
least.
think I'd have anything to do with you? Have you forgotten, priestess? To me, you're no more. You're no more to me than an enemy. Ugh. How can you show your face before me? Why are you making me remember? Ugh. What do I have to do to save the princess? Where can I see her again? And why?
See, they're kind of making
Why am I
Erica
here in this
almost
world
as
now?
the bad guy,
You're the one who summoned Nexus and drove me this far. So answer me.
but Erica's not going to make a particularly great bad guy unless She just gets a ton of new powers and a ton of a new appearance. So once again, this just feels like a very contrived reason to fight each other.
Erica, I'm sorry. You're sorry? What point is there in apologizing?
And see, you could probably have written something where you could have written this where the main leaders have to fight each other in practice to get stronger, and they just train, or there's like a prophecy of some sort that only one of them will be the one strong enough to win, and they have to figure out who's going to be the person to take on Nexus.
My apologies.
Well, you could say that their ability to transfer and defeat Nexus, walk through gates, or defeat Nexus, one or the other or both, those abilities need to be charged up through fighting and training.
Erica, everyone else, I can say nothing other than
there's
I'm sorry.
Definitely no reason to have direct hostile conflict every single time. You can have other forms of challenges and conflict or combat. And certainly there is a point here where this story just keeps going and keeps going and keeps going, where familiarity is just breeding contempt.
No amount of thought makes it clear to me.
Because it just goes way too long.
That sound.
And certainly that was, in part, my experience when playing the visual novel 999, is that it was just such a super long experience. Something that Western gamers are just not familiar with, and I'm not personally familiar with. That it certainly lost a lot of its entertainment value near the end.
Yes, just a moment ago. That was quite a close call.
I see no wounds on you. Did you use too much magical power?
Something like that. I'm fine though. Not very much.
Excuse me.
Things, aren't they? He may be as strong as Nicola, or stronger perhaps.
Nicola?
You haven't met him yet, have you, Eris? Nicola Adele, the Forbidden Guild. Of all the guilds, he's the only one that isn't a group of people. He's a single person whose power can rival that of the other 4 guilds.
Which I guess the existence of Nicola Adele argues that all the other civilians combined are still not strong enough to even mildly inconvenience one of the guilds.
What makes you say that?
Which might be the case, frankly.
You enjoy talking about him. You like Nicola.
Yes, one might say that we have a love-hate relationship. I picked him up almost as if he were a stray dog, or perhaps even a piece of litter.
And you helped him then?
Helped him, or, well, that's simply my way of life. The look in his eyes said he wanted to die. Sorry, how morbid.
You might be able to read that Marlone and Nicola might have a gay undertone.
I am beginning to understand.
But
like
they won't go anywhere with it, clearly. We're back to magical life forms this late into the story? Wow.
That's very unusual. Magical life forms typically self-destruct within just a few hours.
If they would harm people, then we must not ignore them.
Just another kind of like pointless thing.
That was stronger than I had imagined.
Yeah, if you'd started this whole story as just a war-ravaged land,
Magus would surely be overjoyed to learn of it.
and
Should we have allowed it to live then?
and
No,
then
quite the contrary.
it
We
was
had
just
to defeat it.
obvious.
If they were to learn such a specimen existed, they'd conduct more experiments and gain
Yeah,
more knowledge.
if this was a war-torn city and
The power of
everyone
Magus
was a
would
threat and
thereby
potential
increase, and the
enemy,
balance would be
you
destroyed.
then can eliminate a ton of
Your
this
role,
backstory,
Escamali's role,
or
is
the
then to
ton of this
impede their
talking.
progress.
We're quite the black sheep.
Without Escamali, this land might not be able to continue on.
I'm not sure about that. There's only so much we can do to begin with. Since our focus is simply on preservation, we're always a little behind the others. That delay means everything will be crushed and destroyed. Our activities are nothing more than attempts to prolong the life of what's here now.
You mean that all will fall apart someday?
Whether that someday
Yep.
is sooner
And
or later,
they all just
no
kind
one
of
knows. The
leave
signs
it
are
here
already- Well, things
that
will
war
happen
is
as they
going to
will.
happen.
I was fortunate to meet you, though, Eris. I apologize for always acting so pathetic in front of you.
Yeah, you
Surely
could
I
have
am
saved
the
yourself a
pathetic one.
ton of
I have
writing
rejected your helping
by
hand,
telling
and
the
have yet to
story more
advance
like a
single step
mystery
by myself.
instead of just blatantly explaining
Countless times I
everything
have attempted to go
or just
forward,
saying everything
but
out
each time I
loud.
get frightened
If
and
all of
turn
these
back.
people appeared in the land
No simple
and they had no idea what was going on, which would be very understandable and believable, and they just are getting attacked by random people
were you able
many,
to,
many times, and then
arrive at
throughout
that
the game you have 12 card games of people you're being attacked, and there's only a little flash of a hint of what's
I
going on
simply
here
made
and
an
there,
uncharitable guess.
and until you get to the conclusion part and things are made completely clear. That seems like that would be an easier story to tell than what they are telling, and roughly just about as good in quality.
Well, I killed. It's so vivid that I can remember without even closing my eyes. And, well, I used too much magical power. Perhaps this is just how it was to begin with, but I sort of ended up destroying my body. I certainly did a number on myself.
We are actually getting
Pain rushed through
information
my body,
now.
and I wasn't even
So,
able to sleep.
This is the point
It was
right
then
at the
that
end
I
where
realized that
you're
all
getting
of the
anything of
living
importance.
creatures I killed had suffered in this way. And now they'd no longer be able to do even that. When I realized what I had done, I started crying and couldn't stop. Someone appeared to me then. They said that they would mark the back of my hand. They spoke 3 words and departed. Give and liberate. That's when I made my decision, and I traveled through several lands, ending up here.
You were liberated.
One might say that. Well, I don't actually know if I was liberated or not, though.
This may seem presumptuous, but I feel as if you and I have something in common.
No, Eris, please don't say that. I shouldn't want to think there are 2 people like me.
Then we truly are the same.
Are you feeling a bit better?
I don't know if he's telling the
I'm
truth
still
at all.
Oh, well then please be well. There are no gods in this world, but I wish for your happiness.
Yeah, in localization, just
Thank you.
leave that phrase out.
You and I are not like each other, Eris.
Like,
My conviction
maybe
and yours are
in
a bit
Korean or Japanese,
We needed
the
to meet again,
word
Eris.
wish or the
Please
phrase
continue
wish
advancing on
inherently
and on.
means pray, but it kind of feels like they double localized it, where they at one point they failed to translate pray to the word pray, whatever the Japanese or Korean word for pray would be, and then they also failed to translate, so they translated it to wish, and then they also double localized it to say, well, wish means pray, and we can't say pray because there's no gods in this world, so let's just put that phrase in front. Which might also be a good piece of evidence that this is being translated and localized using software that would just break down phrases and translate it in every place where the phrase appears, instead of having someone naturally read the sentences in a natural English speaker, for instance, read the sentences and decide on whether that reads correctly or flows correctly in the native language, because there are definitely a lot of phrases here that don't flow correctly in English. Localization can be a mess and it can be expensive, certainly. But I've seen plenty of subtitles and plenty of dubs done way better than this.
How can I atone?
And at some point you're going to have somebody who can speak the original language and English fluently. That way they can accurately translate things and not play a game of telephone.
Will this pain get the better of me? Or will I be able to resist, to advance?
Yes,
They kind of
fine, Eris. All returns to nothing
fail
in the end. There are no
to
sins
make
nor retribution.
Eris look
Continue with everything you
like
have
a
until
bad
your final
guy
day. That's
visually,
all you need to do.
when they probably should do that at some point.
I was truly
If she's gonna be in this like flowing flowery dress when she was acting as the bad person, they kind of need to counter it in more of a impoverished, torn dress. Like, so if she was wearing something somewhat like that, then that would be that would be realistic. She should like give away all her worldly possessions. She was wearing just like a black leather dress.
Apologies, everyone. This is one of my former acquaintances. Would you mind leaving the two of us alone for a bit?
Oh, is that so? We'll get out of here before we get in your way. Come on, kiddo, let's go.
But I want to talk to him more.
Yep, and then you get reminded about how annoying she sounds.
I don't know.
And I think this might be the hint that maybe this is Nerva. And then we're gonna have that whole conversation we just saw.
Food. And if I were to correct you further, I would say that my body does not much long for blood.
Why? Do vampires not drink the blood of humans?
See, yeah, a visual change in her appearance in any way would definitely help affect a change in attitude and personality. Like, maybe you have her wear blood, like a blood red dress, and she says, I shall wear this to show that I'm covered in the blood of all my victims.
For some reason, I cannot feel that his words are a lie.
And maybe you put like a self-flagellation aspect to it, like a choker collar, or
I have heard Marlone speak of you.
tears in the cloth.
You need not worry, for I have no intention of consuming.
See, what else could you do?
Why is that?
Maybe even something like
Is that not so?
a haircut to show
Erica,
penance.
that was her name, yes? While watching Erica, I came to notice the possibilities of humans, their thirst for victory, and how limitlessly powerful they can become. Simply given enough time, fangless humans can eventually become worthy foes. They are peculiar creatures. Perhaps it would
Now,
be
Urias
easy
is
to
making
slaughter
an
them
interesting
before they grow strong.
potential argument
Is
here.
not
If
so?
he says fangless humans with enough time can be worthy competitors, so would he turn them into vampires if he wanted to make them live longer and become stronger at some point in the future? because that seems like that might be a logical extension of his thought process.
Blood, not as amusement, but in earnest. I do not know. Vampires live long indeed, and there can be no question that they are frightening. But it is not only fear that they inspire. If I were able to live with the strength that he does, might I be able to atone to the others?
We get Marlone. But I don't even know what that is that we just got, frankly. And here you have one straight up called Bondage, which I don't think the Shadowverse would go with a full-on, like, sadism and masochism bondage character too much. So this will probably, I mean, that's definitely some thought that occurred to me, is that, yeah, you could probably do some light bondage attire on her as a masochistic trait that she would develop, a self-punishing trait.
Erica's atrocious blood-stained past. This is no mere feeling, though. It may be more of a premonition. Erica, could that be you?
But I imagine this is just going to be more of a mental bondage concept.
So, if you are there, please show yourself. There is something I would like to ask you. If you will not come out, I will shine my light into the shadows. You were hiding after all.
Why are you following me?
Because you resemble someone I know. Erica. Have you heard the name?
Apparently there's only one Erica in the whole world.
You'd better answer. Did you come from another world?
Yes, I did.
The false sun is fanning the flames of war in this land.
What are you?
You must therefore
they seem to
are you friend or are you foe?
to love to talk cryptically, particularly knowing that they're talking to people from another world.
Whether you are friend or foe, but I am neither to you. Is that a satisfactory answer?
Decide.
So you could do a palette swap on her and make her Eris wear something similar to this, and that would certainly be in line with an attitude change, like, certainly, because remember the Count of Solari said that they drank mud and lived in the shadows and that they were the lowliest of the low, basically, which is really where I think her head should be at, and where I think they're trying to imply is that she has a form of attrition and wants to atone, but the story doesn't really tell itself that well.
She may not like that, but I still know her well. Her past is too similar to your present. If she is in fact with you,
she would be bound to her horrid past.
There you go, and that'll just completely different voice actor. So I wonder if maybe they edited this later on, like years later, and were too cheap to just redo all the voice acting.
I must continue making amends to Erica.
Or maybe in the Japanese version, it's very intentional that her voice changes, and that makes a lot more sense.
She took her own life. Why? Just as I thought. They are dangerous. So long as Erica is with them.
I wonder if the Count of Solari,
Erica, even if I were
like, respawn or resurrect.
But all the same,
explain why they all the subordinates look the same.
What was that? No matter whether I am wanted, I must go.
And that may just end right there. Nope, we got one more. But this really does just boil down to, if you want to know this story, your best bet, and I would suggest this for new players, is to simply have a story where you go through Yuan's story only, because he's the only one who has a story that explains anything.
Erica is your companion? You with such cold eyes? No, this cannot be.
What right do you have to say such things?
I don't know why you would bother to draw another character here when they look exactly the same. Like, do we really need 3 when you could just have 1 female and 1 male? Or honestly, since he's the only one talking, he really should be the only one in the picture. It would be fairly easy to animate the guy several different ways, where he just has stronger weapons or stronger armor, instead of just throwing more characters against you. Particularly considering, I doubt when you actually play the card game you're going to end up fighting 3 people. Like, I haven't seen any evidence of Shadowverse actually working that way ever.
And I'm not trying to. New glory for the troop.
No. I cannot allow you to dispose of your life so casually. I must hurry. There, just around the corner.
No, it's Counter Solari. They're the ones who do horrible things. They take people's lives.
And so she just sees these two starting to fight each other. Which, I guess maybe the idea is that these two start fighting each other and they start the war. And thus Nexus, by bringing them here, manipulated the balance of the guilds.
But even so, no. Precisely for that reason, I have to stop you here.
Arisa, Erica, no.
They definitely didn't make that clear that every time we heard the big explosion was because of these two fighting. Even though every single chapter had these two fight each other.
How could this happen? Something is happening. Something is happening to this world.
Which it definitely goes to show that because this is so long, it's just not allowed me to pay attention to it. And I know maybe that makes me sound like I'm just someone with like ADD or ADHD and just can't pay attention to things, or maybe just a typical gamer, if people want to use that accusation. But
and the present is made of crossing paths.
It really hasn't been the case in other games where I've knowingly realized that I'm skipping over massive amounts of story and not paying attention to it.
Fate is like the water that flows.
So apparently that slash there was supposed to be translated into the large boom everybody else heard, as far as I can tell.
And accursed fortunes manifest. Thus came
no, it can't be, because then you have this big thundercloud,
smoke and rubble,
or lightning bolt, thundercloud. Yeah. So maybe literally a storm does just happen, and in this storm, maybe in this world, storms only happen when the war is about to start. So let's think about this for a second before we wrap up. Arissa's kind of sucked. Erica's kind of sucked. Isabel's kind of really sucked as far as her story. Drag Spears was kind of okay, but just maybe 0.1%. better than the previous 3, or Orisa and Erica's. I would say Isabelle's was pretty terrible because of the major skills character. And that definitely, after playing Isabelle's story, put me on a path of not really paying attention. Luna's really accomplished very little, but it did manage to at least give Luna some character development, which she desperately needs a little bit. Whereas I don't feel like there's kind of any major character development that happened with Orisa or Erica, or really even Isabelle. I can't even remember what Isabelle's part of the story in Isabelle's story was. Dragspear got some power creep development. Urias's story had a little bit of character development, so I would definitely put Urias as the best story so far, and then Luna, and then Dragspear, and then probably Orisa and Erica's, and then I'd say Eris's is the second to worst so far, with Isabelle being the worst. But yeah, if you wanted to play the story here, I think you just play Yuan's story for all of them. Like, if you could do that, I don't know if you really could do that, and you still have to go back and get the daily quest done. For about a month, I'll have to probably go back and play games and get all these challenges to get gold, in hopes that the next expansion will have enough gold for packets. But after either the first or second chapter, you stop getting any other kind of rewards other than gold. And theoretically, after Yuan's story, we'll have a slightly faster experience. But then you run into limited time events, which maybe my timing is just terrible. So you have like this quest that's a limited time event, and they want you to get a maximum of, I believe, 16,000 points, when if you can't beat the elite character Charles, you're going to be out 2,000 points by default, and another 500 points. And so you're just going to have to grind as a new player over and over again, beating the beginner level, which you're almost guaranteed to win. But it is a pain. Also, it kind of confuses the issue, certainly, because, yeah, right now I'm at 6,555, so I would need another 10,000 points, roughly, or 9,445 points to be exact, which you get about 150 per victory, so you're talking somewhere around 50 games, I think, if I did the math right, either 50 or 500. And there definitely are rewards here besides just promo animated cards. Getting another card pack, getting flares is not that important, but getting a Seer's Globe is important. But that definitely takes up time to do, and either you're going to waste a lot of time trying to beat Charles, or you're going to waste a lot of time grinding, and I guess I'll end up wasting a lot of time grinding. They also don't explain this limited once per day well in English. What it means is that you can win once per day, which I assume means that you could probably play after you've won once per day, but any victories you get will just not be counted. Either that or it just completely locks you out. But as a new player, you're going to be lucky if you even win once at all. If I could just get one lucky victory on him with the basic set of cards that are available to me, that would be amazing. But on top of that extra mission stuff, you have these challenges and achievements, which are going to be an issue. Some of which have requirements that are going to be fairly expensive as a free-to-player to accomplish. You also have your daily mission of winning 3 ranked, unranked, or arena matches, which are unlikely to happen. And then you have single-player story matches. here, and I could replace like one of these. So it probably would be easiest just to replace that. And that replaced with plays Runecraft, win 5 games as Dragoncraft or Shadowcraft, and win 3 matches as Havencraft or Portalcraft. That changed it down to 10 reward too. So I actually lost 10 gold by re-rolling, which one would have hoped that wasn't possible. And all of my season ranking, I think, has rolled over. So yeah, I also need to play ranked at some point. There is these challenges where they want you to play, I think, about 20 of these Take-Two games, and each one of them either use tickets or 150, one ticket to play Take-Two, or 150 gold or 150 crystals, which is the premium currency. But you don't do like a Magic the Gathering draft when you play Take-Two. You don't get to keep any of the cards, whereas in Open 6, which uses 4 tickets, which I have 20, so I could do this 5 times, you build a deck using cards you've obtained from open card packs. You're able to keep all the cards except for the phantom cards. If you win 4 matches or more, you're able to keep 1 of the phantom cards. And so that is a draft of some sort, but like the phantom card pack is legendary and gold cards, whereas the other 5 packs you open are just from the latest 4 sets. And from the balance of it, it seems like you get 2 of Fortune's Hands and then 1 of the other 3 expansions. So it would probably make a lot of sense to do Draw 6 when the new expansion comes out. 4 wins allows you gold, 5 wins allows you a legendary card, but there's nothing saying here whether the other packs are guaranteed to not have gold or legendary cards. So that might mean that you have an opportunity to get gold and legendary cards on top of that. But yes, there's just once again more things to do, and there's sometimes tournaments that happen on top of that. So you are just constantly in this situation of, as a new player at least, being uprooted as having a lot of stuff to do. Well beyond the point of realisticness. Like, sometimes games, free-to-play games in particular, do almost have this attitude where they expect you're going to play a game 24/7 for an entire month or so because you're just super into it, which that's not realistic or likely to happen. That looks like that's a good draw. So we have another Pure Shot Angel, which I already have plenty of these. These are fairly common cards. They're decent cards as neutral cards, but there's still a lot. I already have too many of them. We get another Wavecrest Angler, which we already have a lot of those. And I think I'll not read out what they have to say. We got another Coffin of the Unknown Seal, and you had at least one of those. We have Arcane Auteur, which I think I had one of those. But not sure I had 2. A Dragonclad Lancer. If any other followers in play, deal 2 damage to 1, then gain +2/+1, which kind of makes him only a useful card if you play him on the very first turn when there aren't any allied followers in play, or if you play him somewhere around the 4th or 5th turn and you don't mind killing something that, or damaging something that has more than 2 health, which it's kind of unlikely that there aren't a ton of characters that I have at the moment that have more than 2 health. A lot that have like 3, but anything above 3 typically has a lower attack and has ward and is more of a defender type character. Which in Magic there's actually a class called defenders that literally cannot attack, which I don't know if that ever benefited the game to have that class. I don't think we had a copy of this. Imperator Magic, Fanfare Earthright, Summon an Emergency Summoning, Enhance 6, Recover 1 Evolution Point, Evolve, deal X damage to enemy follower, X equals the number of Earth Sigil Amulets destroyed this match. All of a sudden, this card gives me the opportunity to build a good runecraft deck around the Earthright concept, because I was fairly missing that. So here we have Emergency Summoning. When an opponent plays a follower, destroy this amulet. Last word, summon a Guardian Golem or a Clay Golem. Guardian Golem is a 4/3/3 with ward, and Clay Golem is a 2/2 without ward. So you would definitely want Guardian Golem more than you would want Clay Golem. Oh, it summons both of them. I was wondering about that. It's like, what do they mean by or? Here we have a Marionette Expert. I think I have a copy of that. At least one. And then the big one, Conquering Dreadlord. Invocation. When you perform Burial Rite, if it is your 5th, 7th, or 9th time this match, invoke this card, then return it to your hand. When this follower leaves play or at the end of your turn, summon a Lich. Transformation doesn't count as leaving. Transformation, I guess, is evolving. Okay. And that's a Shadowcraft card. And that definitely now lets you build a potential deck where you can play Burial Rite cards, which I did not have a card really that would make that make sense. Interesting. So you have a Lich here, and this art is completely different. And see, this is the thing I kind of think I would like, but seeing it actually in practice, there is definitely some weirdness around it. So you have a floating head and a body just forming from a miasma, a smoke of dead bodies. And then you have here a fully formed body that looks completely different, which does put some motion in it and action in it, but it's probably not a smart move, because people could get fairly comfortable recognizing what a Lich looks like this way, and then when it evolves, you not realize that was the same card. On the other hand, though, since most collectible card games have alternate art anyways, it would be probably fairly common that you would just have to read the name to figure out what the card was anyways. So we got Conquering Dreadlord as an emblem, which that is something we should talk about. Certainly is where we really are as far as, see, flares and emblems now. I don't think we've particularly unlocked a ton of flares and emblems, because I don't think any of them are actually available for beating Chapter 3. Emblems typically unlock just because you have a specific card. So we got that, and that was new. And the way they depict the emblems makes them look like they're card backs, when I don't think they actually are card backs. And that one's new. And that's it. I got a Code Geass one. And all it does is change your little logo. And you're not going to get any new flags. And then actual leader changes. you seem to not really get those unless you buy them. I got a free ticket to get a different outfit for Isabel, so I chose this. I feel like this animation here is done a little bit better. You have a little bit softer pinkish hue on the hair. It's less messed up. You have a necklace here with a blue gem instead of like a big ring. You have a frilly semi-transparent cleavage instead of the censored, let's just throw something there. You have maybe some more purposeful bits of buttons and descriptions here. A blue gem kind of matching that blue gem. This mesh seems to be a little bit smaller and tighter knit. The white of the gloves looks a little bit whiter, and the magic circle is taking up more of the screen, so it does help. But you can't double click on this and see like a bigger image. And they only gave me like one ticket for the 4-year anniversary, so I wasn't able to get any of the other characters' alternate outfits. But also, in all fairness, all the other characters' alternate outfits looked pretty much the same. Here, we could play as Nexus, I guess.
Offer up thy woes.
And we could look here particularly as just what my win ratio in ranked matches are. Is I've gotten 1 Portalcraft victory, 4 Havencraft victories, no Bloodcraft, 3 Shadowcraft victories, 1 Dragoncraft victory, 1 Ruincraft victory, 1 Swordcraft victory, and 2 Forestcraft victory. Which is to say, I have not been playing ranked very much. And these ranks, by the way, go up to like rank 125. They don't seem to really do too much. They don't seem like they reward you anything. Let's see, if I was to come over here, I did try to build some decks here still, but let's see, do we have newer sleeves? Yeah, we did have a new sleeve, so okay. Yeah, I know, this is far too busy a sleeve to use. But this isn't too bad for Grand Blue Fantasy anime crossover. So there's like 3 pages of sleeves that I have right now, and eventually I'll unlock more sleeves. But that does seem like that's as much as that they're gonna really let you do, is just have sleeves for different decks, which is nice and all, but that isn't much. And then you can change your preferred leader for specific decks, and guess you could create a deck code. Yeah. It says Gil. I wonder if that means null. The goal. Code will be valid for the next 3 minutes. So I guess maybe you go to some website to share their deck codes, instead of just copying and pasting the information. Which it should just be a simple text copy and paste. And yeah, there's not anything particularly special about these cards or that deck, other than they are just decks I'm trying to use to defeat Charles. So yeah, once again we end each of these stories the same way, just saying that there's just an incredible amount of stuff to do, and having the main story also be put on top of you as this kind of burdenous extra thing. doesn't really improve the experience. It doesn't push you to do the other things that you should be doing. It just kind of wastes your time, so then you don't have time to do the things you should be doing. There's really nothing more to say than that. That's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.